If you have seen Gravity Falls, you know that Grunkle Stan is the most outrageous and mysterious guy in the show. After I just finished my second rewatch of the show, I was wondering, what would actually happen if Stan was caught for his crimes? He is a known shoplifter, has over 100 identities, and hides money behind every painting in his house. And that is not even mentioning the Mystery Shack business. So let's have a look at what happens when Stan meets the law. In the legend of the Gobblewonker, Dipper and Mabel look back on their cherished memories with Uncle Stan, like that one time he had them make counterfeit money. Dipper, ever hopeful, asks if today's family bonding day will be anything like their last one, where they ended up in county jail for making some extra cash.
Ben Franklin? He looks like a woman!
Mabel dramatically shivers, recalling the cold, dank, slightly smelly jail cell. Stan, in all his glory, admits he's not exactly winning Uncle of the Year, but promises that today will be a day of actual family fun. Sure, Stan, Gravity Falls is located in the state of Oregon, and just like any state, making counterfeit money is not what you would call a clean method of doing business. This crime is known as forgery, and gets you no more than 20 years in jail. But as Grunkle Stan has experience, he should probably get the maximum sentence. In The Time Traveler's Pig Grunkle, Stan proves yet again that he's much more than a cheapskate. The episode kicks off with Stan strutting around, practically bursting with pride over his mystery fare, claiming he's spared every expense, which, judging by the carnival's state, seems to mean all of them. Dipper then crashes down from the Skytram, landing in a mangled heap and muttering about the tram being broken. Stan barely blinks. He's too busy grinning and thinking up new ways to cut corners, like slapping fake safety certificates on all the attractions. Mabel, looking like she's about to lose her lunch, asks if that's even legal, to which Stan responds with a wink and a well-practiced smirk, explaining that laws only exist when cops are nearby. If they're not, everything's fair game. For this crime, Uncle Stan could face up to 1 to 5 years in jail or pay a fine of up to $125,000, but I'm sure cheapskate Stan would very much rather go to jail than pay the fines. In Fight Fighters, Mabel, in her usual Mabel way, asks if she can borrow a ladder. Stan's eyes go wide with sudden panic, like she just asked for a pet bear. He immediately launches into a wild rant about how ladders are way more dangerous than a loaded gun, and how he personally owns 10 guns to prove it.
I own 10 guns. In case some maniac tries to sneak in a ladder. You're the one who's acting cray-cray.
Stan admits to having over 10 guns in his possession, which is crazy, even for Stan. Possession of illegal firearms is a Class A misdemeanor, and considering Uncle Stan has more than 10 in his possession, he could be facing up to 2 years in jail. In the episode Little Dipper, Stan, ever the upstanding citizen, proves again that he's also a tax evader, mistaking Gideon's lawyer for a tax collector and rushing to hide all of his money.
Welcome to a world of mystery. The tax collector, you found me!
In Oregon, tax evasion can get you up to 4 years in jail, so that's 4 more years to Uncle Stan's jail time. In the same episode, Gideon strolls up to the Mystery Shack, grinning like he's just won the lottery, except instead of cash, he's holding a jar full of cursed Egyptian super termites. As he reaches the door, ready to unleash his little nightmare army on the shack, Stan appears out of nowhere, distracts Gideon, and manages to knock the jar out of Gideon's hands. The jar tumbles and shatters on the ground, releasing the termites with a vengeance. But instead of devouring the Mystery Shack like Gideon had hoped, the little monsters decide to go attack him.
Hey, Seuss, get in here! I want to take pictures of this!
Although Gideon attacked him first, so in the state of Oregon, this would count as self-defense. In the episode Summerween, Stan takes the gang shopping. Mabel and Dipper turn the store into a demolition derby with a wheelbarrow, while Stan shops for scare supplies. When the cashier calls security, Stan tosses a smoke bomb, and they make a dramatic getaway, paying with Stan bucks, his doodled counterfeit cash, which is definitely not recognized as a legal tender.
Boo!
Pine's family from the store.
Not today!
My eyes! I hate Summerween.
Let's move!
If the goods Uncle Stan stole were valued up to $100, and from the looks of it, they were, he could be facing 30 days to a whole year in jail. Okay, this one probably does not deserve jail time, but Uncle Stan spends a whole day trying to scare 2 children, finally getting them after they sneak into his house and catch him half naked in the bathroom. The kids panic, drop their bags of candy, and flee like they've just seen a ghost. After that, Stan gives a creepy lecture about Summerween being all about celebrating pure evil, then laughs maniacally. Suze, in true Suze fashion, casually drops, "I ate a man alive tonight," leaving everyone staring at him like he's just announced he's the ghost of Halloween past. Stan has definitely done worse, but in the episode Boss Mabel, a busload of tourists pulls up to the Mystery Shack, and Stan tells Wendy to hike up the prices. When she sets them at $20, he insists on $200.
Some new attractions!
You got it, boss.
Higher! Bleed 'em dry!
Yeesh, Uncle Stan.
Thanks for taking me to the Mystery Shack, Daddy.
Dipper calls him out, saying he sees customers as nothing but walking wallets. Stan denies it, but then looks at the tourists and, surprise, sees nothing but wallets with legs. One customer even vomits a pile of change, because why not? Stan casually tells Dipper to clean it up. Later during the tour, Stan proudly showcases his attractions, including the pre-teen wolf boy, who, to no one's surprise, turns out to be Dipper in a wolf costume.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
Wolf boy! Oh, look at him! All that hair! If you throw money at him, he dances. Ooh, thank you. And remember, folks, we put the fun in no refund.
Which were all fake attractions doctored by Stan himself, committing fraud. In the same episode, Stan attempts to strip naked on live TV for his cash shower, really not caring about public indecency. If you ask me, he should definitely be put away for that one. No one wants to see their old Uncle Stan half naked on TV. Hiking up the prices and selling fake products to tourists is fraud and punishable by up to 5 years in jail. In the episode Bottomless Pit, Grunkle Stan and the gang somehow managed to fall into a literal bottomless pit. Honestly, he should also be charged for negligence, cause these kids went through a lot living with their uncle. In Oregon, criminal negligence can get you 10 years and up to $250,000 in fines. Stuck with nothing to do, they start to tell each other stories. In the story Mabel tells, Stan and the Pines are hanging out by the Stanmobile watching Manly Dan unload a bear that Stan teaches to drive for a new Mystery Shack attraction. The bear's driving is terrible, and when the cops pull them over, Sheriff Blubbs demands an explanation. Stan, ever the master of BS, claims the bear is his seeing eye bear, sent by Dr. Medicine to help him get to the hospital.
I'm gonna teach this bear to drive. The yellow light means speed up.
Now there'd better be a darn good explanation.
Back at the shack, Stan is busy spray painting rocks to sell as authentic gold nuggets, more fraud, when Mabel calls him out for his big lie. Stan, with his usual swagger, explains that at his age, you have to bend the truth a bit for the greater good, which he demonstrates by lying to Dipper about the location of his plate of spaghetti. He also admits that he's been parking in handicapped spots and admits to committing years of tax fraud.
In addition, I've been parking in handicapped spaces.
Is all this true?
Police station? Yeah, I forgot to tell him about my tax fraud.
Stan's brutal honesty gets way out of hand, and his tell-it-like-it-is approach quickly drives the twins nuts and almost lands him in jail after confessing to a bunch of crimes when Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Derlin show up to question him about his seeing-eye bear and the non-existent Dr. Medicine. Mabel, trying to cover for him, claims Stan's just a crime writer making up stories for a new book. So basically, our favorite uncle commits more fraud, confesses to years of tax fraud, and teaches a bear to drive recklessly, endangering other road users. All of that could get Stan roughly 15 years extra. Grunkle Stan is going to be in jail for a very long time, it seems. Stan also has a long-standing beef with Gideon, and I'm pretty sure the way he assaults him consistently can get him some serious jail time, like in episode 15 where he assaults Gideon for sitting on his pool chair and tries to burn him with sunlight. Uncle Stan is caught by Dipper later that night, sneaking into the pool to get ahead of Gideon, using his tools to cut through the pool fence, which counts as destruction of property and trespassing.
Grunkle Stan?
I'm sleepwalking. Yeah.
Hey!
Now all I have to do is wait here 15 hours until the pool opens.
Stanford!
Assaulting a minor could get Uncle Stan up to 5 years in jail, and I know we all hate Gideon, but he still qualifies as a minor. For the trespassing and destruction of property, he could get up to 1 year for a first-degree trespassing, which this was. Stan starts season 2 off strong, attempting to bribe government officials who arrive at Gravity Falls after a massive power surge caused by the machine Stan is building.
Here to investigate reports of mysterious activity in this town.
Although they didn't accept it, he could be looking at up to 10 years in jail for bribing a government official. In the episode Into the Bunker, Stan oversees the Mystery Shack's repairs, and telling the construction worker that the equivalent of a zombie apocalypse happened at the Mystery Shack was definitely not an option for Stan. So he does the next best thing. When a curious construction worker asks about the damage, Stan claims, a big woodpecker did it. The worker raises an eyebrow, but Stan quickly silences him with a bribe.
Keep the change.
Works for me.
The worker pockets the cash, nodding in agreement. So that's an extra 2 years to Stan's hypothetical sentence. Considering Uncle Stan's track record, this one's probably a mild disaster in comparison. In Seuss and the Real Girl at the Mystery Shack, Stan spots a kid and casually asks, "Want to see old Goldie? Best attraction we've got." The kid, already skeptical, shrugs. So Stan, ever the showman, shoves a nickel into the machine. Goldie, ancient and barely functional, flicks his hat up for a second before his eyes bulge out and he starts screeching like a malfunctioning vacuum cleaner. Oil spurts from his mouth and the poor kid bolts in a full-on panic, tears streaming down his face.
Hello! Don't you want to use that nickel to get a nugget from old Goldie?
Stan can't get jail time for scaring a kid, but he can definitely be seen as a menace to society. In this episode, Uncle Stan has a moment of deep existential dread and starts believing the arcade is some sort of living nightmare. But of course, things escalate quickly. Enter the animatronic badger. Yes, you read that right. And a creepy robotic band that suddenly springs to life, putting on an over-the-top performance for the kids, after which the children, totally enchanted, hand over their allowance money to. Stan watches this whole spectacle unfold and immediately decides he must have that badger for himself. Who wouldn't want a con artist badger as part of their collection, right? The next day, Stan can't stop talking about how expertly the badger ripped off the kids, but Wendy, clearly not interested, just nods along. Stan starts gearing up to break into the pizzeria to steal the badger, pulling on gloves he calls his old friends, and warning himself to be extra careful this time to avoid any more Colombian nights. As he sneaks out of a window, he dramatically declares, "Sometimes a man has to steal an animatronic badger."
Sometimes a man has to steal an animatronic badger.
In a crazy turn of events, the badger is brought to life by Giffany and begins to attack Stan, but before it causes any real harm, the gang defeats Giffany. Attributing the save to old Goldie, Stan decided to take it to Vegas, where they indulge themselves in a limo with showgirls, sip rich people water in a hot tub, and rake in chips at the casino until they're kicked out for winning too much. They make a quick getaway in a helicopter piloted by Goldie and end the night getting married by an Elvis impersonator in a Vegas chapel. If Stan succeeded in his theft, he'd be looking at an extra year of jail time, and considering the fact that he also destroyed property, will make it too. In The Love God, Stan and Seuss try to impress the crowd with their poorly balloon, but things go hilariously wrong. Instead of proudly declaring "I heart kids," the balloon reads "I eat kids."
What the H?
I eat kids.
Naturally, the crowd is horrified, and chaos erupts as the balloon careens through the air, catching fire. It crashes right into the Love God, leaving him tangled in a mess of fabric. Stan's death trap of a balloon could have seriously hurt lots of people, so this counts as public endangerment. I feel like calling it terrorism would be a stretch. For the extremely stupid, poorly planned balloon fiasco, Stan could be facing up to a year for reckless endangerment. In Little Gift Shop of Horrors, the episode kicks off with Stan greeting a traveler whose car is broken down at night. With a mischievous grin, he warns, "You may be subject to tales designed to sell my merchandise." Stan goes on to explain that after hours, the Mystery Shack offers its spookiest attractions for sale. He presents a disembodied hand priced ridiculously high. More fraud. To seal the deal, he launches into a story called Hands Off, promising it's the perfect backstory to justify the outrageous price. In the story, Stan steals a fake gold watch from an old witch at a swap meet, and as a result, he's cursed and wakes up the next morning without any hands.
Looks like I got off scot-free.
At breakfast, Dipper and Mabel discover Stan's hands are gone. A message from the witch plays, but Stan refuses to return the stolen watch. After struggling with his stumps, they visit the witch's cave, where disembodied hands attack. The witch says the curse can only be broken with a kiss, but Stan backs out when it's supposed to be a kiss on the lips.
A kiss on the lips!
Ultimately, the witch reveals stealing body parts was all a ruse to help her get a date, and Mabel suggests a cave makeover, saving Uncle Stan's ungreat self once again. After spinning his tall tale, Stan offers the still unconvinced customer a free sample of a delicious potion, which, surprise, knocks him out cold.
How about this delicious potion? Have a free sample.
He wakes up later, trapped in a glass box, and is proudly dubbed the Cheapskate, now an official Mystery Shack attraction, which I'm sure is kidnapping. During the end credits, he's stuck playing tic-tac-toe with Mabel, who's shamelessly bending the rules to win because, hey, what else is she supposed to do in a glass cage? The theft was imaginary, but the fraud and kidnapping definitely weren't. For those crimes, Stan could face a minimum of 6 years in jail. In Blendon's game, Uncle Stan proudly claims he once petitioned the government to remove July 13th from the calendar, but unsurprisingly, it backfired. Now he's banned from airplanes for reasons that will remain classified.
I even petitioned the government to have this day removed from calendars. Now I'm not allowed on airplanes.
Looks like he'll be sticking to the Mystery Shack, and possibly avoiding air travel forever. In Not What He Seems, Stan's busy building a machine that would finally bring his twin brother Stanford back to his dimension. He hits start on a timer, syncing it to his wristwatch, and then casually flips through his journal. His invention messes with gravity. Well, that sounds safe, and I'm not sure which rulebook messing with gravity is illegal is in. I'm pretty sure he'd get serious jail time for this. This has never happened, so we're not sure how much jail time Uncle Stan could be looking at. The next day, Mabel bursts in to wake Dipper, proudly showing off a closet packed with fireworks. Stan, always up for chaos, invites them to set them off on the roof with total disregard for the safety hazards or law enforcement, which could get him up to $2,000 in fines. Stan tries, again, to spill his big secret, but as usual, he chickens out. Just as he gears up to tell them the truth, bam! A heavily armored agent tackles him, and Agent Trigger signals a whole tactical team to take over the Mystery Shack. Dipper and Mabel are completely baffled until they spot two agents they thought were zombie chow. Turns out someone swiped toxic chemicals the night before, and the agents are sure Stan's the culprit. Plot twist? Stan is the culprit. That qualifies as grand larceny and could get him up to 25 years in jail. Later that day, Stan pulls off a daring escape by using the gravity anomaly from his machine to defy physics and slip past the agents.
Man, get him!
Once outside, he gets even craftier, swiping cash from an agent's wallet and bribing a taxi driver to take him on a wild, far-flung ride. So Stan stole, assaulted multiple police officers, and escaped custody, adding about 7 years to his sentence. In the same episode, Mabel and Dipper find his fake IDs, so he could face from 10 years to life in prison for ID fraud. In the Stanhurian Candidate, Stan heads to Ton's grocery store for some light bulbs, but of course, chaos finds him. Robbie and the gang spot him in the checkout line, and as usual, can't resist roast. In a fit of rage, Stan loudly announces he's about to shoplift the bulbs, which could get him a 6 months to a year. Naturally, a nearby cashier hears and alerts security. Stan tries to pull off a dramatic escape with a smoke bomb, but it's as effective as a wet napkin since it's long past its expiration date.
Smoke bomb! Rough start to a day, but it's all gonna be worth it.
In the end, Stan limps home with a bruised ego and his hard-earned light bulbs, discovering that the problem had been solved by 4. In the last Mabelcorn, Stan is involved in a pug trafficking scheme where he warns a worker. He has 24 hours to take the pups across the US border in Spanish. For trafficking, he could get up to 10 years. Even with Stan's questionable morals and numerous crimes, in the end, he proves himself to be a pretty stand-up guy. When he sacrifices his memories to finally defeat Bill Cipher and save Gravity Falls, and by extension, the world. In the Mindscape, Bill Cipher's plan takes a nosedive as the door slams shut and blue fire erupts from Stan's memory-erasing gun. Stan, fully aware of the cost, tells Bill his memory is about to be wiped, and Bill's about to go down with it. Bill, panicking and glitching like a broken computer, tries to bargain, but Stan's not having it. He's done playing games. With a satisfying punch, Stan shatters Bill into pixels, finally feeling like he's done something useful for once.
What's happening to me?
Back in the real world, Stan's memory is totally wiped, and everyone trapped in the tapestries is free. Meanwhile, Bill's henchmen get sucked into the rift like unwanted guests at a party, and the pyramid disassembles into oblivion. Eventually, Stan regains his memories completely, and him and the gang all get their happy ending. In the end, Stan's criminal ways may never catch up to him, but he's still the good-hearted con artist we all know and love. In total, however, Stan could be looking at 138 years in jail and $350,000 in fines, which he would rather go to jail than pay. So let's raise a glass, or a totally legit souvenir mug, to Uncle Stan, the most lovable criminal in Gravity Falls history. And if you want to see this guy go to jail, make sure to click on the screen now.